Let's bring you back to our studios here at the National Results Operations Center. Continue making sense of what's being said, perhaps what's not being said, with just over 16% of the national count so far being tallied. It places the ANC at 42% so far and counting, the DA at 25%, and the EFF running off the top three at 8.5%. The picture has been changing constantly throughout the morning. I imagine it'll continue doing that until the bulk of the results have been tallied. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast is our political analyst with us here in our studios as we continue making sense of everything and sundry, so they say. Dr. Breakfast, welcome back. Great to speak to you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to just touch on the remarks by Gwede Mantashe. He's obviously among the senior leaders who are on the floor, so to speak. He, of course, is the chairperson of the ANC. A number of questions were asked. Inevitably, there's going to be a question around the prospects of coalitions and whether or not the ANC has already started thinking about horse trading. He completely dismissed it, flat out saying that the ANC is not even entertaining that prospect. Is he just putting up a brave face, or do you reckon he has a leg to stand on?
I think starting democracy is easier than maintaining it, because democracy is not an event, but a process. So it's a process that we have to deepen or consolidate. But the question is whether we have a democracy or not, because in a democracy, the losers must accept that they've lost. And the question is, if the ANC loses, will they ever accept that they've lost and let go of power? So the issue of whether we are going to have a coalition arrangement or not doesn't depend on him. It depends on two factors. One, it depends on the fact that there won't be an outright winner, and the fact that the environment at the moment is fragmented.
You know, coalitions are one thing, but we have a history in this country of collaboration at a political level that has unfolded in a different way. The concept of a government of national unity is something we've seen before. It's slightly different to a coalition, and you know, many people might say it requires a different level of political maturity to pull off. Do we have that?
At the moment, yes, we do have coalition arrangements, if I understood you well.
Well, it's more the political maturity to pull off a government of national unity.
No, I don't think the country does have that at the moment, because when coalition partners come together, they only discuss musical chairs, not models of development that will be employed in pursuit of improving the lives of the people for the better. But coming back to the other issue that you made earlier on, my view, I know this is very controversial, but South Africa doesn't have a long-standing history of coalition arrangements. The first coalition arrangement that rose to prominence was in 1924 between, I think, the National Party and the Labour Party. The second one was in 1933. After that, we had one-party dominance, and it's the National Party that dominated the political landscape until 1994. Then the ANC rose into power. But again, people say that but in 1994 until 1996, that partnership between the ANC and the National Party was a coalition arrangement. I take that with a pinch of salt, because the ANC won those elections. That's why the National Party pulled out in 1996. But now it's a different kettle of fish, because if the ANC doesn't win, it means that it cannot take decision by itself.
Even if it wanted to. All right, that's a fair point, I think. We're also hearing, you know, people drawing different lines of demarcation. We know already, on the one hand, there's this idea of a moonshot pact. All kinds of things have been said in this electioneering period. I'm not sure how much that coalition will continue to coalesce. But there is the other side of the spectrum, right? People perhaps who are seen to be leaning more towards the left. MK Party, the EFF, maybe Ace Makashule's ACT. Do you see that kind of, you know, grouping consolidating if in fact they do end up coming out of this with a formidable amount of support?
Let me make two strategic points. First of all, I think the idea of a moonshot pact fell apart. That's why the DA now, because they said they were coming together because they wanted to prevent a coalition between the ANC and the EFF. That's why at the moment they're saying that they can reach out to the ANC and join forces with them. The second issue is that, is the MK a leftist organization, or is it a nativist organization? Is radical economic transformation a political ideology?
Some people might say yes.
How?
In the sense that, you know, it's more around, you know, it's it's leaning towards a more liberal kind of thinking, the idea of, okay, I see your point,
The point I'm making is that normally nativism is employed when liberation movements are trying to conceal their weaknesses. That's why Msholozi rolled out radical economic transformation to divert our attention from allegations of corruption. Because if he was a proponent of Marxism, when he was elected at Polokwane, he would have said so on the spot that there will be a change on matters of economic policy. So I take this notion of a radical economic transformation with a pinch of salt. I don't think that it's a leftist cleaning.
Who then represents those ideologies, those that lean to the left? Is there a vacuum that is to be filled by our political parties to resonate with people who, quite frankly, identify with that kind of thinking?
I think the left at the moment is fragmented. I mean, there have been many initiatives of a democratic left and so on. I mean, for instance, why does the EFF not join forces with the Communist Party and the PAC and AZAPO? Because they speak the same language. You can collapse them and make one organization so they can pose a serious threat. There is no way we can have a leftist organization that can win elections by itself without having strategic alliances.
Speaking about the AZAPOs, the PACs, I mean, these are organizations that have been around for a while, and you and I were having a chat about why it appears their own messaging has been eclipsed by that of the EFF, which is still a relatively new party. Yes, they came in with a bang. We've seen slight electoral decline since then. But, many people hear the EFF's voice and their message louder than that of the PAC and AZAPO, even though it's so similar.
No, of course, I don't think that the EFF has brought a breath of fresh air. What the EFF has done is to appropriate the ideological pillars of the PAC and the AZAPO. The issue of the return of the stolen land comes from the PAC. The issue of political identity, Frans Fanon, comes from AZAPO. So there's nothing new. But what they have done is to outmaneuver these liberation movements at a strategic level. The PAC and AZAPO, they failed to reposition themselves after 1994. Yes, you can invoke history. Yes, I agree, you cannot talk about contemporary specificities without invoking history, but you cannot be stuck in the past. You've got to move with the time. The second point is that you cannot win elections by having ideas. You have to have money. I get the sense that AZAPO and the PAC don't want to accept money because they say it comes from imperialists, from colonialists. No wonder we see these numbers now.
Okay, I wonder if they're listening and are likely to change their strategy come 2029. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, always great chatting to you. You're not going anywhere. We'll certainly hear more of your insights here on the SABC News Channel as we continue with our special broadcast of elections 2024. There are the results as they stand. Just under 17% of the votes counted. That translates to over 1.6 million ballots tallied. We'll continue with this broadcast in a moment.